Good morning students, Jacob here. I hope you all are doing fine. So students, hand washing is the best way to prevent spread of germs as well as communicable diseases. It's very easy and simple. So here's a video on how to wash your hands.
Wet your hands with water. Apply soap. Rub your hands palm to palm and wash the backs of both hands and in between your fingers. Then palm to palm with fingers interlocked. Clasp your hands together and rub. And then clean around the thumbs too. Rub your fingertips in the palms of your hands and finish off with the wrists. Rinse your hands really well with water and dry them thoroughly with a paper towel. Use the towel to turn off the tap. Your hands are now clean.
So wash your hands regularly and protect yourself from all the diseases. So students, today we are going to continue our chapter, The Making of a Scientist from Your Footprints Without Feet book. So previously we read that Richard A. Bright achieved success in a very young age and he was interested in butterflies. The only child in his family developed interest when he was very young. Okay, he had nobody to play with him, so he started collecting butterflies, coins, stones, fossils. So his mother encouraged him in this interest. She used to buy books for him. She bought telescope, microscope, camera and all the equipments which were required for him to pursue his interest. So she never used to leave him alone. She used to give him something or the other to learn. So after collecting 25 butterflies, he thought that probably this would be an end. But when his mother gifted him a book named The Travels of Monarch 10, he realized that it's a vast world and there are lots of species of butterflies. At the end of the book, it was written that if somebody is interested, he or she can reach to Dr. Urquhart. So for several years he worked and he made his home shelter to many butterflies. He sent butterflies to Dr. Urquhart. Only 2 were captured and he did not receive any feedback. So he was disappointed that out of all the butterflies that he sent, only 2 were captured, and for those 2 also he did not receive any feedback from Dr. Urquhart. So now we will continue that after his disappointment, what did he do next? So The Making of a Scientist, page number 35. Then in the 7th grade, he got a hint of what real science is when he entered a county science fair and lost. It was really a sad feeling to sit there and not get anything while everybody else had won something, A. Bright said. His entry was slice of frog tissues which he showed under a microscope. He realized the winners had tried to do real experiments, not simply make a neat display. So what happened then? He actually participated in a county fair. County means a group of towns. Okay, so he actually participated in a science fair and he actually entered with slides of frog tissues, but he did not win any prize. Okay, he says that I lost. The reason was that all the other participants were doing real experiments and not just showing the neat displays. So that is why he lost. Already the competitive spirit that drives Richard A. Bright was appearing. I know that for the next year's fair I would have to do real experiment, he said. The subject I knew most about was the insect work I had been working in the past several years. So he wrote to Dr. Urquhart for ideas and back came a stack of suggestions for experiments. Those kept A. Bright busy all through high school and led to prize projects in county and international science fairs. So what happened after that county science fair? He realized that he would have to perform real experiments, so he engaged himself in some projects. He also wrote to Dr. Urquhart for suggestions, and he got lots and lots of suggestions from Dr. Urquhart, and he started working on the project. For his 8th grade project, Abright tried to find the cause of viral disease that kills nearly all monarch caterpillars every few years. Abright thought the disease might be carried by a beetle. He tried raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles. I didn't get any real results, he said, but I went ahead and showed that I had tried the experiment. This time I won. So what happened? He actually performed the real experiments wherein firstly he thought that all monarch caterpillars were actually killed by a viral disease that was caused by beetles. Then he performed the experiment by raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles, and he said that nothing happened. So he performed the same experiment in the fair and he won. The next year his science fair project was testing the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. The theory was that viceroys look like monarchs because monarchs don't taste good to birds. Viceroys, on the other hand, do taste good to birds. So the more they look like monarchs, the less likely they are to become a bird's dinner. So in the next science fair, his theory was about the viceroys butterflies copying the monarchs. The reason is that viceroys butterflies actually taste good to the birds, so in order to avoid becoming a bird's dinner or bird's prey, they copied monarchs because monarchs don't taste good to the birds. Abright's project was to see whether in fact birds would eat monarchs. He found that a starling would not eat ordinary bird food. It would eat all the monarchs it could get. This project was placed first in the zoology division and third overall in the county science fair. So Abright's project was to see whether birds would eat monarchs or not. Then he realized that starling, it's a category of bird, a species of bird. It's written at the end of this chapter as well, the meaning. So starling was the only bird who could eat all the monarchs. So this project of Abright was placed first in the zoology division and third overall in the county science fair. In his second year in high school, Richard Abright began the research that led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. Indirectly, it also led to his new theory on the lives of cells. The question he tried to answer was simple. What is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold spots on monarch pupa? Everyone assumed the spots were just ornamental. Abright said, but Dr. Urquhart didn't believe it. To find the answer, Abright and another excellent science student first had to build a device that showed that the spots were producing a hormone necessary for the butterfly's full development. This project won Abright first place in the county fair and entry into International Science and Engineering Fair. There he won third place for zoology. He also got a chance to work during the summer at entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. So in his second year, Richard Abright began the research of unknown insect hormone that was responsible for life of cells. So what was the research project about? It was about the tiny gold spots on monarch pupa. So others thought that probably it is just an ornamental, just a kind of show. But Dr. Urquhart did not believe it. So Richard and his excellent science students started working on this project, and they thought of preparing an instrument which would actually prove that the spots were actually producing a hormone which was responsible for life of cells. And what happened? This project of Richard won the first place in county fair, and he also got entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair, which is written or mentioned in your book. And he also got a chance to work at the Entomology Laboratory of Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. As a high school junior, Richard A. Bright continued his advanced experiments on the monarch pupa. That year, his project won first place at the International Science Fair and gave him another chance to work in the Army laboratory during the summer. In his senior year, he went a step further. He grew cells from monarch's wing in a culture and showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wings scales only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. That project won first place for zoology at the International Fair. He spent the summer after graduation doing further work at the Army Laboratory and at the laboratory of US Department of Agriculture. Then during his education, during his high school as well as his senior year, he kept on working on different projects and he won prizes. He worked for several laboratories, which is mentioned in these two paragraphs. Okay, so the work that he did during those years of his study. The following summer, after his freshman year at the Harvard University, Ebright went back to the laboratory of Department of Agriculture and did more work on the hormone from the gold spot. Using the laboratory's sophisticated instruments, he was able to identify the hormone's chemical structure. So what happened? The following summer, he went to Harvard University and he started working on the project which was related to hormone from the gold spots, and he actually wanted to identify the chemical structure of the hormone, and he was able to. A year and a half later, during his junior year, Ebright got the idea for his new theory about cell life. It came while he was looking at X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone. When he saw those photos, Ebright didn't shout, "Eureka," or even "I've got it." But he believed that along with his findings about the insect hormones, the photos gave him the answer to one of biology's puzzles: how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. It determines the form and function of the cell. Thus, DNA is the blueprint for life. Okay, so while working on his project related to hormone, what we just read is that he also realized that DNA is the one which is responsible for heredity. So it says it is the form and function of the cell, and DNA is the blueprint of life. So this theory came in his mind when he was actually looking at the chemical structure of the hormone. Ebright and his college roommate James R. Wong worked all that night drawing pictures and constructing plastic models of molecules to show how it could happen. Together they later wrote the paper that explained the theory. Surprising no one who knew him, Richard A. Bright graduated from Harvard with highest honors, second in his class of 1510. Ebright went on to become a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. There he began doing experiments to test his theory. So what happened? Richard and his college roommate, they started working on this theory which he lately discovered about DNA. Together they wrote paper that explained the theory. Okay, then he graduated from the Harvard University with highest honors. Okay, and then he began doing experiments. If the theory proves correct, it will be a big step towards understanding the processes of life. It might also lead to new ideas for preventing some types of cancer and other diseases. All of this is possible because of Ebright's scientific curiosity. His high school research into the purpose of the spots of monarch pupa eventually led him to his theory about life cell. So what he thought, that if the theory on which he was working proved to be right, then it will actually change the entire scientific world. And what will happen? It will be a big step towards understanding the processes of life. Richard Ebright has been interested in science since he first began collecting butterflies. but not so deeply that he hasn't time for other interests. Albright also became a champion debater and public speaker and a good canoeist and also an all-around outdoors person. He is also an expert photographer, particularly of nature and scientific exhibits. So, apart from collecting butterflies, he was also a good debater, public speaker, and he was a canoeist. Canoeist is a small boat. It's mentioned at the end of the chapter as well, the meaning of canoeist. And he was a good photographer as well, so multi-talented. In high school, Richard Albright was a straight A student. Because learning was easy, he turned a lot of his energy towards the debating and model United Nations clubs. He also found someone to admire, Richard A. Verheer, his social studies teacher and advisor to both clubs. Mr. Verheer was the perfect person for me then. He opened my mind to new ideas, Albright said. So over here, his SST teacher is talking about Mr. Richard, that he was a good student, he used to learn and he was confident learner as well. And Richard Albright on the other hand is saying that his social studies teacher opened his mind for lot of other ideas. Richard was competitive, Mr. Verheer continued, but not in a bad sense. He explained, Richard wasn't interested in winning for winning's sake or winning to get a prize. Rather, he was winning because he wanted to do the best job he could. For the right reasons, he wants to be the best. And that is one of the ingredients in the making of a scientist. Start with the first-rate mind, add curiosity and mix in the will to win for the right reasons. Albright has these qualities from the time the book The Travels of Monarch 10 opened the world of science to him. Richard Albright has never lost his scientific curiosity. So again, Mr. Verheer, his social science teacher, is saying that he was very competitive. He actually wasn't interested in winning prizes or for getting a reward, but he wanted to do the best he could. So this was the spirit in Richard's heart that led him to become a scientist or helped in making of a scientist. Okay, so his curiosity, which he built up after reading the book The Travels of Monarch 10, has led to his scientific curiosity as well as a good career. So with this, we are done with that chapter, The Making of a Scientist. So during our online class, we will discuss the entire chapter. So students, watch the video carefully and be ready with the questions. So thank you students and have a good day ahead.